You know, electricity is one of those simple processes that we don't really think much about. We flip the switch on, the light comes on, and voila. It's something we take for granted. We use it every day. But the truth is, there's really a complex process behind making electricity. And not only that, but the process making it environmentally clean. So we're here today at the TECO Electric Polk Power Station, where they're going to show us how they're keeping Polk County's lights on and environment clean. So sit back, relax, and join me on this Science Quest. Hey, Temi.
Hi.
I'm with Temi Linjawile. He is the process engineer for the TECO Electric Power Plant here just south of Mulberry in Polk County. Temi, tell me a little bit about how the process, I mean, we're looking at this giant chart here. It's all kind of Greek to a lot of people, but tell us a little bit about the process of how you make electricity.
All right. Yeah, we start with the solid fuel, which is a mixture of petroleum coke and coal.
Okay.
Petroleum coke is a waste product, a residue from refinery of oil. So with that, we also need oxygen.
Okay.
So we have an air plant, a plant that is dedicated just for making oxygen from air. So the mixture of those two go into a reaction vessel that is called a gasifier.
Okay.
So in that, we make a gas that is called syngas, which is a mixture of carbon monoxide and hydrogen. But since the fuel comes with impurities, in particular in this case is sulfur, we also need to remove that in the process.
Okay.
So the hot gases from the gasifier, they go to a radiant syngas cooler where they get cooled and make steam.
So basically you're saying we have coal and petroleum, leftover petroleum stuff from refineries or something
from
like
refineries.
that. Okay.
It's a solid residue. It's called petroleum coke.
So you take that and you bring it into this gasifier, and basically what happens in the gasifier, you're saying, is it just
it's a reaction.
It mixes it with
oxygen. Yes, it's a reaction because the petroleum coke and coal is crushed in water, so it comes out as a slurry, enters into the gasifier, which is maintained at about 2700 degrees Fahrenheit. It's pretty hot in there. And we need oxygen to make the reaction complete.
Okay.
But the oxygen is limited. We have more fuel than oxygen, so we are consuming all the oxygen that we put in there so that we don't burn the gas that we produce.
I see.
Okay.
Because this stuff would burn up.
Right.
If there was too much oxygen in it.
Exactly right.
Okay.
Burn up. Okay. So we make the a syngas mixture, which is a mixture of carbon monoxide and hydrogen. But since there are also impurities that come with the fuel in the form of sulfur, we need to remove that sulfur downstream. Okay. And the hot gases go to a vessel that we call a radiant syngas cooler, which is basically a boiler to make steam.
A big boiler.
A big boiler. So we are making steam that later on will go to a steam turbine to make electricity.
Okay.
And the solid residue after the reaction goes down to the bottom. We call it slag, and it's recovered and sold as a byproduct.
It's just a waste.
It's a waste, but we use it. It's used for sandblasting. It's nice blasting material.
Really fine
right,
stuff.
really fine. It's used for sandblasting.
So there's a whole bunch of stuff going on up here. What's happening up here?
Now, after the gas leaves the radiant syngas cooler, it is cooled, of course, to make steam, and then it's scrubbed with water to remove all the other impurities that come with coal, like ammonia, hydrogen chloride, hydrochloric acid. So all those are removed in here. But also because the ammonia and hydrogen chloride can react together to form ammonium chloride, all that is also removed. So everything that is water soluble is removed here together with the particulates. And after that, it is cooled down and goes to this particular system here for removing sulfur.
Okay. And that's a big thing, right?
That's a big thing.
As far as like environmental
Exactly right. That's the whole purpose of this thing, is to remove sulfur as environmental mitigation.
Okay.
Okay. That sulfur, if it's not removed that way, and if you burn it in the combustion turbine to make SO2, sulfur dioxide, and when it's released into the environment, it will change into sulfuric acid and make acid rain.
Ugh. Yeah, nobody
So
likes
that needs to be removed.
Okay. So once it gets removed, it's showing here sulfuric acid is what's left.
Right. So what is removed, that hydrogen sulfide goes to another plant, a sulfuric acid plant.
Okay.
So it is being converted into sulfuric acid. The purpose of the sulfuric acid plant was to mitigate sulfur removal, but it's a byproduct. So
Right.
we're making a byproduct.
So
as
you're
well.
using kind of all of your byproducts. You're getting
Exactly
rid of
right.
everything. There's
Exactly
always
right.
something to
Exactly
do with
right.
it.
Exactly right.
Okay, so now you've gotten rid of all of the gas that comes from here, and everything is heading to this.
It goes to the power
Turbine.
block. Yes, this area we call it the power block, and it has two turbines. It has a steam turbine and a combustion turbine. So the first thing that the gas sees is the combustion turbine. So this one here, it's indicated by this diagram.
Okay.
So once the gas is burned in the combustion turbine, it drives the turbine to make electricity. That's what it's showing here.
Okay.
So when this is running at full capacity, it will make 192 megawatts. Okay. And then the hot gases leaving the combustion turbine leave at about 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. So they still have a lot of energy.
Yeah, that's
So
it.
we can't just throw it away. So we utilize that hot gases, we put them into another vessel called a heat recovery steam generator.
Now, if you did let the gas, like what would you do with the gas if you weren't capturing it? What would happen to
We
it?
would just leave it, it will go into the atmosphere.
Okay.
But it's a clean gas. We have removed all the sulfur, it's a clean gas, but
I
we are
see.
losing the heat.
Right, so why not use something that you already have?
Exactly right. So that improves the efficiency of the
Okay.
system.
So the gas goes into this heat recovery.
steam generator. So this is another boiler. Basically, it's another boiler. So we are making more steam, and all the steam that we made here in the gasification area is superheated, and then it goes to another
Okay.
turbine, a steam turbine.
So this would be kind of like your more traditional way of creating energy
exactly
or
right.
electricity.
Yes.
But you're actually throwing in an additional portion of it to get more efficiency out of what you're
Exactly
doing.
right.
That's really cool.
Sure. Now we're making more additional 123 megawatts.
Out of that steam.
After that steam, this power would have been lost if we didn't recover it. If we didn't recover that 1,000 degrees. Okay.
Now, how do the turbines create electricity?
These ones work like a dynamo. I don't know how many people are familiar with those, dynamo technology. So it basically spins a wheel, okay?
Okay.
So it needs high pressure to spin a wheel, and it's connected to electromagnetic, to magnets, which spin to make electricity. So that's how basically we make electricity. And the way this one works, especially the combustion turbine, it's very much similar to an internal combustion engine. The only difference is that here we are spinning a wheel, okay, a shaft. We're spinning
Right.
a shaft. In the car, you are making pistons move up and down
Right.
from the hot gases. That's
So
the
the
big
shaft,
difference.
the shaft is it's spinning the wheel. The
Right.
shaft is turning, and
It's
that
turning.
wheel then rubs.
As it spins, it is in an electromagnet. It's in a magnet, so it creates electricity that way.
Okay.
Okay.
Very cool. Well, looking at it on paper, and explain it kind of makes it a little bit easier to understand. But I think it would be really cool to see some of this stuff in action.
Exactly. Sure. We'll go take a look at that and have a fun out
All
there.
right, let's go.
Thank you.
All right, Temmie, so you brought me out here. I'm seeing a bunch of massive structures here. What am I looking at?
You're looking at the air separation unit over there.
Okay, so that's the first stage.
That's the first stage. That's where we separate air into oxygen and nitrogen.
Okay.
And then on that big structure over there, you're looking at the gasification unit.
Okay, so this is the part where you're making the oxygen, you're pulling the oxygen out
of the air.
sending it to the gasification unit,
Right.
where you said your coal and your petroleum product
They mix
were going in
together.
there,
Exactly right.
making that really concentrated gas.
Exactly right. So they go over there, the enclosure. In the enclosure, that's where the gasifier is located.
Okay.
And then the oxygen comes in at about 575 pounds pressure. It mixes with the fuel, which comes at about 400 or something, 450 or so pounds pressure.
Now, when you say pounds pressure, that you're not talking about heat. You're actually, is there like a pump that's forcing, like a compressor?
Right, exactly right. So the oxygen is forced by a compressor. There's a compressor that pushes it there. The slurry, since it's like a liquid, there's a pump which pumps it up there as well.
All right.
The remainder of that structure actually is that radiant single screw. It's a tall vessel.
Okay.
So it goes through there, and the slag will go to the bottom, and then there's another equipment for collecting the slag.
Okay.
And the gases will go to the acid gas removal plant, which is in the background. You don't see it here.
What about the actual turbines and everything?
Those
where
are
are they
in
at?
power block. It's on that direction. We'll also see it later.
Okay, let's head over there.
Okay, thank you. This is the power block.
Okay.
So you're looking at the heat recovery steam generator, and behind it there is the combustion turbine. So all those hot exhaust gases we talked about,
Right.
they go into the heat recovery steam generator, they get superheated, and then they go to the steam turbine, which is behind us on that area.
Okay. And now you had mentioned when we were walking up that this over here is the other part of that whole process.
Right. So the stack that you're seeing there with the spirals, that's the acid plant.
Okay.
The acid plant. So finally all the gases, after the hydrogen sulfide has been used up, the gases escape through that stack.
Okay. So just to kind of tie it all together, the things that we just looked at were the water, where we capture the oxygen.
Right.
We add it to the gasification unit,
Right.
the big giant tower.
Yes.
The gasification unit then sends some of the gases, the used gases
Hydrogen
over
sulfide,
here,
Yes.
to take the sulfuric acid out.
Right, to make sulfuric acid.
And then the rest of it goes over here
Right, the clean gas. the
to be
clean
used
gas.
for the turbine.
Exactly right. So this is the heat recovery steam generator.
Okay.
Because once the gases have been burned, the fuel gases, carbon monoxide and hydrogen, the exhaust gas is hot. It comes out at about 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. So that heat is
It's
used
hard to
make
even
more
imagine
steam.
that. It's hard to imagine that kind of heat. I mean,
Yeah.
when you figure boiling water is what?
212 degrees.
212, and you're boiling water to 1,000
Right,
degrees.
right.
So that's moving the generator or the turbine.
So that's right. That steam that is made will go into a steam turbine. That steam turbine will roll. It's connected to a shaft, and that shaft has some winding at the end in a permanent magnet, and that's what makes electricity.
This is so cool. This is so cool. Well, from what I understand, your environmental guy, and I'd really like to take a minute to talk to him, Mike Perkins.
Right. He's going to talk to you about the water system in this
Okay.
plant. What happens to the water? Where do we get it from? What do we use it for? And how
Excellent.
it's linked to the reclined water system that we've just installed here in the plant.
All right, thanks, Tevin. So Mike, here we are. I'm with Mike Perkins. He is the environmental coordinator with TECO Energy. Mike, we talked a little bit with Temi about some of the processes that go into cleaning up the gases and things like that. Environmental protection here, is a real focus for you guys, isn't it?
Absolutely. We're going to comply with everything that the EPA requires us to do, and one of the most important things we do here is we remove sulfur from the syngas before we send it to the combustion turbine. And what we have here is our sulfuric acid plant, and we burn a blend of 85% pet coke and 15% coal.
Right. The pet coke is the stuff that's left over from making gasoline, basically.
Correct, Stephen. So the sulfur is in the pet coke, and we want to reduce that sulfur. We want to remove it. That's what's going to protect the environment. If that sulfur gets out in the air, then it can be converted to H2SO4, create acid rain. So,
which in turn creates balding.
Good. So we want to remove that sulfur from the gas, and the sulfuric acid plant back here is our pollution control device. So what we do is we scrub that sulfur out. We basically drive it to H2SO4, and we make a 93% sulfuric acid. We make about 200 tons a day.
Wow.
Not only do we remove it from the environment, but we sell it as a byproduct.
Can't hardly beat that. You're cleaning up the environment and offsetting some of the expenses that it goes into making all this stuff. Now, Temi had mentioned there towards the end of our conversation in the classroom was, there's also all of these high heated gases and things like that. They need to be cooled down, and that takes water. Where's the water coming from?
Yeah, that's correct, Stephen. We have a 750-acre cooling reservoir, and that's how we cool the processes, cool everything in the plant.
So actually, when you're talking about the water, you've actually got two different systems of water. There's some that are going into the system to create steam, and then there's other water that's cooling, right?
That's correct, Stephen. We have a reverse osmosis, and a demineralizer plant that we use to make demin water for the HRSG, for our boilers, the ultra pure, cleanest water we can make.
And that's actually, that water has to be good, so you're pulling that out of the ground, but not in large quantities, right?
We probably pull about 500,000 gallons a day out of the water for plant demin water.
Right. Okay. I mean, can we take a look at some of these, you know, like your coolant pond or anything like that?
Yeah, we can take a look at the coolant pond, or we can take a look at the reverse osmosis plant. Stephen, we're here at the reclaimed water treatment plant.
Okay.
And this plant receives wastewater effluent from the city of Lakeland. And we use that water to provide cooling water for the plant. And after treatment, what it does is it provides good clean water for this cooling reservoir you see out here. And it's a 750 acre, 3.5 billion gallon man-made cooling reservoir. It's 10 miles in length, and it takes the water about 7 to 10 days to make that trip.
I mean, it's incredible. It's about as far as I can see is reservoir. It's huge.
Yeah, it's a beautiful view up here.
Yeah, it is. I even see the power plant and everything. Now, the operation is so huge. I mean, when we were talking to Temmie over there at the power plant, I mean, he kind of knew everything that was going on over there, but this is almost like a whole separate thing, isn't it?
Oh, this is totally different than what you see up there on power generation, but this is the water that's provided for that power generation. And Brent Nicholas is the supervisor of this water plant, and he could go into more detail about how we treat the water to make it clean enough to fill the cooling reservoir.
All right, cool. Let's talk to him.
All right, let's do it.
Hi, Brett.
Hi.
How you doing?
Pleasure to meet you.
So, Mike was telling me that you're kind of the go-to guy when it comes to this reclamation area.
Well, I am the superintendent of the reclaimed water treatment plant, and here at the plant we process the water coming from the city of Lakeland. The water originates at their wetlands at the Glendale facility, their wastewater plant there. They put the water in a wetlands, goes through a series of cells there. It's transported through a 15-mile pipeline here to the Polk Power Station. From here, we do the treatment of the water to make it useful for our processes here in our cooling tower and our cooling reservoir.
Okay. And that's an important part of the cooling process. I remember Temmie was saying about, you know, that the process generates so much heat, and there's a lot of water that has to be used for that.
There is. We have a 750 acre, 3.5 billion gallon cooling reservoir for a lot of our open loop cooling, and also our new cooling tower associated with some of our expansion here at the site.
So what are we looking at right here?
Well, this right here, we're standing on the density clarifier. This is the first step in the treatment process of the water coming from Lakeland. The water from Lakeland has a lot of organics in, a lot of algae, as you can imagine, with the summer heat here in Florida. A lot of algae grows in the water. We've got to take a lot of that out of the water before we can actually run it through its final process, which is the reverse osmosis. Through this clarification process, we added some iron, we add a polymer to it. It coagulates a lot of those organics that I just mentioned, the suspended solids, and then clarifies the water.
It's pretty cool looking the way it like creates this little cloud, I gotta say.
It's sort of like a lava lamp looking.
So where does it go from here?
Well, from here, the clarified water leaves and goes over through additional filtration. It's multimedia filtration. It's comprised of sand, anthracite, and garnet.
Okay.
And that purifies the water a little bit more as far as particulates go. And then we send it from there to our reverse osmosis system.
Cool. Well, let's take a look.
Okay. All right, right now we're going right onto the structure, which is called our Greenleaf multimedia filtration system. Once the water leaves the density, the effluent water, that clarified water, enters into this Greenleaf filtration system.
So with this, there's a little bit of sludge floating around on the top. What happens to that? I mean, where does that all go?
Well, each one of these cells here, and there are 4 cells, are independent of each other. Over time, as particulate and some of that sludge plugs up these cells, they get backwashed. And so that gets sent back into a spent wash water tank that's in the background there. That water then is recycled back to the head of the plant and reprocessed.
So I see like one bin is lower than the other. You keep different cycles going all
Correct.
the time.
As they plug, they'll get higher and higher in level.
Okay.
And so once it reaches a level where we feel comfortable backwashing it, The other 3 cells then take the entire flow while we backwash 1 cell. And again, that backwashed water is reprocessed back through the head of the plant.
Okay. Where does it go from here?
Well, from here, the water is as clean as we can make it through this clarification and filtration process. At this point, it is ready to go to the ROs. From here, it goes to a filtered water sump, and then to a wet well, and then from there forwarded to our reverse osmosis system.
Okay. When you say ROs, that's what you're talking about, is the
Yes,
reverse osmosis?
reverse osmosis.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Well, now Mike said that the reverse osmosis are pretty big over here. They're not like the ones that you have over on the other plant, which I think we're going to take a look at here in a little bit, but these are pretty big ones.
Correct. These can handle 2,000 gallons per minute. Each skid is capable of processing about 2.8 million gallons per day. We currently have 2 of those skids, which gives us a capacity of about 5.6 million gallons per day of processing capabilities. But we're currently expanding to a 3rd RO system to enable us to go to a full 8.5 million gallons.
Awesome. Let's take a look at the big reverse osmosis. I'd love to see
All right,
this.
let's do it.
So these are the reverse osmosis tubes right here.
Yep.
These reverse osmosis things were huge.
Yeah, they are a very large system. They are capable of handling 2,000 gallons per minute. We have 2 that you saw in there. We also have a 3rd one that's being constructed. So we'll be able to handle full 8.5 million gallons of water per day.
Now, reverse osmosis is an interesting, I mean, it's a big fancy word. I mean, what is a reverse? I mean, we saw the tubes. What's in that tube?
Well, there are membranes inside the tubes, and it is really the heart of the system. You saw the clarification process, you saw some of the filtration process. That's just a pre-treatment for the RO system. It's a very fine filter, basically filtering down to 0.001 microns, down to the molecular level.
Wow.
That removes a lot of those unwanted dissolved solids. The Lakeland water has a lot of nutrients in it. That's one of the things that's pretty hazardous to the environment because it promotes a lot of unwanted growth in our creeks and rivers. So part of this project is helping that by taking that water from being discharged at Lakeland, processing it here, and how we get those nutrients out along with those dissolved solids is through this reverse osmosis process.
And of course, the cleaner you can get the water, the better it is for the equipment here during the cooling process.
Absolutely. It's better for our cooling tower. It's also better for our reservoir. What we have is a heat load to our reservoir. It comes from our Unit 1 as well as our Unit 2 expansion. That creates more heat in this reservoir, creating more evaporation, a more cycling of the solids. So we want to keep those solids down and keep that reservoir healthy. This water quality is very good for that. It's purified to a level that's very helpful for the reservoir.
Yeah. What do you do with like the excess water? Because you're getting really clean water that you're using. What happens to all the other stuff?
Okay, once you go through the RO process, there's a certain recovery on the RO process. These filtration systems or RO systems are an 85% recovery system. So there is a reject stream that has the concentrate in, those solids that I mentioned that it removes. A lot of people wonder what you do with that. Well, we drilled 2 8,000-foot deep wells here on site. There's an injection zone between 4,300 and 8,000 feet that we inject that concentrate into.
Wow. So that's way deeper than like where we pour our drinking water out.
Oh, absolutely. The aquifer is much closer to the surface. Between that 4,300 foot level, we have about 1,200 foot above that of very solid containment. So it's a very secure place to put our concentrate.
Now, obviously, like making sure that the excess stuff is put into a safe place for the environment, you're cleaning up your retention ponds and all these things. This is a pretty big effort from TECO to make sure that what you're doing is environmentally sound.
It is. Water is a precious commodity to all Floridians.
Yeah.
We get our primary source for drinking water is the aquifer. It needs to be protected. It is very protected in this particular region. The Southwest Florida Water Management District recognizes that. When we said that we were going to expand this site, we needed water for not only our expansion currently, but any future expansion. Right. They said, wow, can you go ahead and see if you can find some reclaimed water, maybe a reuse project. And with that, from that point, we went out searching for other entities to partnership with, and we found the city of Lakeland. And it's been a good relationship, a good partnership. We've also added the city of Mulberry as well as Polk County. So this is a unique project that blends all those entities together for basically the good of the environment, as well as helping out the municipalities with their wastewater, and it helps us secure water for not only the present but the future.
And that's really great because, you know, one of the things that people look at, you know, a big power company like you guys, I mean, you've got power plants all over the place, you're providing a lot of energy, and there's so much negative talk about, you know, all the horrible things that energy does to the environment. But there are safe ways to create energy, and you guys are proving that, and not only proving it, but teaming up with those municipalities, those local agencies that are, you know, helping to reclaim the water, reusing the water, making sure clean power is being created.
It's very important moving forward. You know, everyone wants to treat the environment with respect, and Tampa Electric, it's always been a priority.
It makes sense, an investment on the infrastructure up front, but then long term, the payoff is huge dividends.
It would have been a lot cheaper for us to put a pump above the ground and just pump that water out of the aquifer. But you know, it's really not the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And this is a much better approach. And like I had mentioned before, the multiple entities involved do receive benefit.
Well, Brett, this has been quite the education over here. Now, these are the big, huge reverse osmosis stuff, but Mike had mentioned that that you guys have a smaller reverse osmosis. It's actually for the water that gets generated into steam.
We do. We have a smaller system. It's comprised of basically 3 of these units that you saw, but only in a small setting.
Little baby ones.
Yes, about 8 membranes as opposed to our 72 membranes.
Well, I'm going to go catch up with Mike and take a look at that. Thanks so much for your time,
It was
Brett.
a pleasure.
All right.
All right, Steve, let's talk about reverse osmosis and how we make steam. A lot of reactions, chemical reactions in the plant, we need to have steam. And the way we make that steam is we need ultra pure water. So what we do is we have some wells on site, we pull the water out of the wells, and we run it into these reverse osmosis units. They're tightly wound spiral filters, and using high pressure, you push the water through it, makes the water pretty clean when it comes out, removes all the anions and the cations, but that water's just not clean enough yet to what we want to have for steam. So then we run it through our demineralizer, and here we're going to pull out everything. So when we get that water, it's going to be ultra pure, as clean as we can make it, and that's the water that we're going to use for the Hersig for steam and to drive a steam turbine.
How much of that water does it take throughout the process? I mean, you kind of mentioned earlier, you know, you're pulling about that half a million gallons per day.
Yeah, we pull about 500,000 gallons per day, and these RO units typically have about an 85% recovery rate.
So that means you're cycling the water back through.
The other 15% you're losing on the filters, on the membranes.
Okay.
But that water's going out to so many different areas in the plant for steam and many different chemical processes, and then we need it at the end for the steam turbine.
I see. So. And of course, I'm sure you guys, you know, love to drink some crisp, clean, super ultra clean water, right?
Yeah, we use it for the drinking water system too, but not so much though, because you really don't want to take the minerals out of your drinking water.
Right. Well, this is also interesting. I mean, there's so many different facets to this entire operation. I mean, when you drive by one of these power plants, either the one here in Mulberry or Big Bend or whatever, you see it, but you really don't know what all's in there. You only see a couple stacks up in the air. But just the sheer size and everything that's going on, it's incredible.
Well, it's a 24/7 job, 365 days a year, and you know, we've been out here for 20 years, so we're really
20 years.
20 years. We're really happy with the technology that we're utilizing every day.
Well, I appreciate your time. You and Temmie, you did a great job taking us around here. It was really good. Thanks.
Thank you, Stephen.
Well, that's about all the time we have for today, but join me next time as we seek out yet another science quest.